ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Tech Showdown. My name is Kevin, this is my co-host Teddy, and today I just made a super quick video for you guys because I knew you would enjoy it, showing my building and the parts I picked for my Ryzen 5 test bench that I'll be using to do all of my Ryzen 5 showdowns. So super quickly, before we jump into it, I just want to say a big thanks to playtech.co.nz. If you guys do not know, they have supported me and the channel for such a long time now, since I was very small. They provided me with all these great parts I could use. I just couldn't do it without them, and I decided to run a lot of Gigabyte parts because in general I've had a good experience with Gigabyte, and I wanted to make sure my Ryzen test rig was really solid. I didn't want to have any issues with it like I did when I was testing that B350 a little while back. But a lot of people have been having a few issues with Ryzen so far, and I just wanted that to be not the case, so I decided to run a lot of Gigabyte parts for that reason. So let's jump straight in there and then talk about the parts. So the first thing you'll notice is the Gigabyte test bench. Now this was not intentional. I actually planned on using a just a normal case. It was actually going to be a Corsair case. But when I went into Playtech, they said, hey, we got the Gigabyte test bench, you can use that if you want. I have used it a number of years ago, and they said, hey, it's just been sitting around, why don't you use that instead? So I cleaned it up real nice, and I decided to use that one. It will actually make it quite a bit easier to switch out the CPUs. I mean, you can still do it quite easily in a normal case, but the test bench is quite handy for that. So yeah, I decided to go with that. Now moving on to the motherboard. So this is very important when it comes to Ryzen, and I decided to go with the Gigabyte X370 Gaming K7. So this is probably the best motherboard that Playtech currently sells, best X370 motherboard that Playtech sells. And yeah, I had the Gaming K5 before, and that was pretty damn good, but I just wanted that bit extra. I wanted the K7. So far, I've only done a little bit of testing so far, not on Ryzen 5, just with the Ryzen 7. I'll talk about that a bit later. And it's been fantastic. I haven't had any of the memory problems I've had with some of the other motherboards, and it's just been tremendous. So that's a really solid motherboard. The list of features is just crazy. There's so much good stuff on it. But yeah, that's the one I decided to go for because a lot of other people I'd spoken to also were raving about the Gaming K7, saying it was a fantastic X370 motherboard. Now for memory, I decided to go with the G.Skill Ripjaws 4 2x8GB 3000 MHz memory kit. Now my reasoning for this is my last showdowns I did, all my other Ryzen showdowns with 2133 MHz on both the Intel system and the AMD system. Since then, obviously, we've discovered that memory speed makes quite a big difference with Ryzen. So for this, I've decided to bump up the memory speed, so I'll be testing both the Intel and AMD systems with 2933 MHz memory, close enough to 3000. So much higher memory speeds this time around. I think that'll be very interesting to see how, because I'll be doing one Broadwell E showdown, the rest will be Kaby Lake, how that differs between my previous ones with the memory at 2133 MHz to now with 3000 on both systems, and see how much of an improvement there is for Ryzen, as everyone's raving about right now, because that faster memory speed really helps out those Ryzen chips because of the Infinity Fabric. So that's going to be quite interesting to test out, and I'm really looking forward to that. Now, as far as SSDs go, I got the SanDisk Extreme Pro 480GB SSD. SanDisk have been around a really long time, and I really trust their products, and that was just a good size. 480GB will be plenty for the test rig, loaded up with games and all the other stuff, so that should be a very solid size there. Now, power supply wise, we're running the Gigabyte G750H 750 watt gold semi-modular PSU. So I'll be honest with you guys, the only reason why I picked this one is because I've never tried out a Gigabyte power supply before, and I thought, hey, may as well give this one a go. Yeah, it seems pretty solid so far, no issues there. Obviously, you always want a pretty good power supply with your rig, give that nice clean power to the motherboard, and that's the one I decided to pick. Semi-modular as well was quite good, as it's, you know, fully modular is obviously going to be better, but semi-modular is still okay. You don't have as much of like a nest of cables that you have to hide in your PC, as opposed to non-modular ones where it's just, oh boy, it can be such a fun time in terms of cable management with them. So that was quite good. Now CPU wise, so I put the Ryzen 7 CPU in at the very end of the build, and that's normally not what you do. You do it at the very start. That was because I was expecting to have the Ryzen 5 chips. There was a little bit of a delay, so I've had to put the Ryzen 7 in just so I could get everything sorted, get Windows updated, have everything all running 100%, so then I can drop the Ryzen 5 chip in straight away and get on to my benchmarking. Now, as far as the cooler goes, I was planning on just using the stock AMD cooler. Now, you may say, oh, Kevin, that's not fair. But it actually does a really, really good job, even when overclocking. So I probably will stick with it. It's a very solid cooler, and don't you worry, I will take that into consideration when I'm doing the showdowns, in terms of the fact that many of the Intel counterparts do not actually come with a cooler. But if I can, I'll see if I can find a another aftermarket cooler that I can chuck on it, just to double check and make sure that it's not having, it's not holding back those Ryzen 5 chips at all. Now, GPU wise, I put on the Gigabyte G1 Gaming GTX 1080. That is my personal graphics card. Yeah, so that kind of makes sense that I use that. It's the best graphics card I currently have. I'm obviously using it because we don't want the GPU to limit any of these showdowns. We want, I'm not going to be testing at 4K. It'll only be 1080p and 1440p. And that's the most powerful graphics card I have, and that's just common sense when it comes to CPU testing, guys. We want to run the most powerful graphics card we can in order to make sure that the tests aren't being GPU bottlenecked, as you would if, say, you were running a mid-level graphics card. And while we're talking about the testing, I'll tell you guys now, I'm only going to be doing DirectX 11 testing because of recent, the recent news basically has come to light, which Jim at Adored TV and Steve at Hardware Unboxed have both gone over, which is that the Ryzen CPUs seem to have something funny going on when you test them with a NVIDIA graphics card in a DirectX 12 title. Something with the DirectX 12 drivers is just, this is something going on. So I decided to just drop all my DirectX 12 testing this time, and I've also dropped the Rise of the Tomb Raider benchmark just because I don't think it's that good anymore. People are saying there's issues with it in terms of testing Ryzen, so I've decided to replace it with Ghost Recon Wildlands, and that's the benchmark I'll use instead of it. And as I said, they'll all be in DirectX 11. So let's jump in then. I'll show you guys how I built this PC and show how it all looked at the end. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll leave that to take you out. And yeah, it was really quite fun to build, and I can't wait to bring you guys some really, really good Ryzen 5 content. I got so many showdowns planned. It's going to be crazy. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you guys next time.